Reddit, what is the worst party you have ever attended? I had a friend from high school invite me and 3 other friends over for what he described as a party. We thought that it might be a small gamer party with some nerdy board games or something, as there were only the 3 of us plus him and his wife. His wife then proceeds to start an hour-and-a-half presentation about urban and tries to sell female beauty products to a group of males between the ages of 19 and 22. I was astounded. In college I went to a singles mixer organized by NRA. I knew it wouldn't be a drinking party, but I assumed it would be sort of like a cocktail reception where I could meet some single women. NRA, who organized it, was in a counseling program and decided the best format was to sit everyone in a group like a group therapy setting. She then asked everyone to go around the room and talk about who they are, then what they are looking for, thin sexual preference, and so on. And on. And on. It was long and weird and really personal for a group setting. At the end you would assume she would use the speed dating format where we could discreetly write a few names we liked, and if there is a match they would connect us. Nope. We were asked to go around the room and in a safe and open setting tell us someone you felt a connection with and we could be paired up. The Ra went first. She picked the hottest guy in the room. He said, "Oh, sorry, I'm more interested in someone else." And that ended the entire evening on the spot. Haven't been to that many parties, but this one stood out for its weirdness. A couple was throwing a holiday party. I knew the husband, who was a computer tech worker. His wife was a fashion photographer. So basically, half the people at the party were nerdy computer guys, and the other half were gorgeous women who worked as high fashion models. Let me tell you, the guys were very interested in mixing, and the women were not. An office Christmas party at an officially sanctioned company event, but an informal gathering at a co-worker's house. No bosses were there. At some point my wife looked at me and said, "You're drunk. You need to get home." Now, I don't know what made her say that. I'm not an obnoxious drunk. I don't get into arguments with people or say outrageous things. I might have been slurring my words a little, but I wasn't on the point of falling down or throwing up. But I trusted her judgment, so I'll let her drive me home. I was drunk enough that I went straight to bed and fell sound asleep. So what did my wife do? She went back to the party without me and ended up making out with one of my co-workers. This was my first wife. New Year's Eve party at my parents' house. Just as the clock struck midnight, my dad set off possibly the biggest firework I've ever seen and heard. The sound of it was so loud, in fact, that it killed my sister's hamster. A lot of screaming and crying followed. One of the many graduation parties I went to after high school. It was an awesome party for an hour or so, then some 17-year-old showed up with her baby and kept insisting people keep it down so she could get the baby to sleep and have some time to herself and to party. Cleared out pretty fast. Was a date to a female friend's cousin's wedding. The father of the bride died of a heart attack during the reception. A horrible, horrible night. A Mormon wedding reception. No alcohol. String quartet playing. No dancing, and 4 hours of listening to family members reminisce about the bride and her life leading up to this momentous occasion. The marriage lasted 1 year. TL. Doctor, don't go to Mormon wedding receptions. Senior year college house party. It started off okay. A good sized crowd. A few drinks. Takeaway pizzas galore and everyone playing this board game called Articulate. By the next morning, 2 of the hosts who had started the night as a couple were now in a, shall we say, a gaping open relationship. One of the bathrooms had been redecorated in vomit, including ceiling. Honestly, I was impressed. One guest had been outed to his Bible bashing parents via Skype. Another stole a suitcase. A third managed to somehow fall out of the attic conversion, then back into the house, then down the main staircase, all while projectile-itting. I don't even know how. But what really ruined it for me was someone stole my favorite pair of gloves. So I liberated a bottle of Jack Daniels that survived the evening as compensation. Birthday party for a friend of mine when me and him were both maybe 5 years old. In front of everyone, I was firmly pulled aside by the arm by the birthday boy's mother for busting the piñata too early. I was then told that I was ruining the party, that I almost hit the birthday boy's dad with the little wiffle bat that we were using, and that I should be better behaved or she would tell my parents. In my defense, I was blindfolded. and the piñata was being moved up and down, so it was all fair game. I was also never told that we were trying to make the piñata last. Also, how much damage can a 5-year-old kid with a wiffle bat do to a grown man? I was invited to a toga party. Huge party. Maybe 60 plus people in a bungalow style house. Not one girl showed up. I was at a pool party. By nightfall everyone was pretty wasted. One of the guests thought it would be funny to fill a Jägermeister bottle with ipecac and offer shots to the people in the pool. 12 or so people did a shot and were so wasted that they didn't care that it tasted funny. A few minutes later it was a total puke fest in the pool. Kinda like that scene from Family Guy, but in water, so everyone was screaming and scrambling to get out as the pukes whirled around them. My dad planned a big Christmas party a few years ago. Invited all of his friends from work and a bunch of other people. Went out and spent about $250 on food booze. Not a single person showed up. At least I had lots of snacks to eat and booze to drink. I felt really bad for him though. Was pouring at a brew fest. Got invited to a hotel party later that night by another brewery rep. Was supposed to be a great party with lots of breweries in attendance. Showed up. It was just that brewery rep making garlic bread and his drunk as hell, mostly naked girlfriend. Probably will be buried, but here goes. Became friendly with a bunch of French people while living in a non-European city. They all seemed like nice, intelligent folks. One day one of them invited me to his birthday party. When I got there, the host immediately laughed at the bottle of whiskey I'd brought as a present, Jameson's, and offered to pour me some good whiskey. I kind of laughed it off, but then things got worse. Everyone was speaking French, and they refused to speak to me. I went from group to group, trying to make conversation. People would politely answer me in English and keep speaking French. It was like a ducking nightmare. They all knew I wasn't a French speaker. Why did they invite me? Finally I went out on the balcony to smoke a cigarette and regroup. This dude comes out and starts speaking to me in French. Even I could tell his French was horrible and he was not a native speaker. I start yelling at him to speak to me in English, and he runs off. I downed my drink and left. I was invited to a co-worker's 23 birthday party via Facebook, which had a good amount of people who said yes to the invite. I showed up about 20 minutes late. After texting the birthday girl that I was on my way, arrive at the house and see there are 4 people there, and they are all incredibly drunk. I crack open a beer that I brought and start talking to the few people who are actually there. The birthday girl disappears outside for a little while with a friend, and then comes inside and asks me to head outside with her. I've been at the party for less than 30 minutes at this point. We sit outside her house. As she's hiccuping and laughing, she tells me that I need to leave because they are all pretty drunk and aren't planning on going out like they had previously planned. She tells me that I can't go back inside and that I should just head home right now. I asked if I could finish my beer, and she said I had to do it outside. Luckily no one had offered a place to put my stuff down when I arrived, and I had everything with me, so I chugged my beer as fast as possible and left. Haven't talked to her since. Child's birthday party. Parents swapped cute stories about their kids' bowel movements etc. Kids ran around screaming at each other. There was no alcohol, no adult food. To top it off, the hostess was into health food, so the only snacks was a variety of raw fruit. A wedding reception and dinner which was, for some reason, overbooked. Though there was plenty of food, there literally were not enough places to sit, and no assigned seating. The worst part of it was, there would have been plenty of seats if only people had agreed to eat in shifts. But the people who arrived first saved seats for their friends. We tried sitting in several places, but each time, someone spoke up and said, "Sorry, that seat's saved." At any given time, half the seats were empty because the people who had claimed them were off talking to someone at another table. After going through the buffet line, my wife and I had to go outside and sit on the concrete steps while we ate. And while mosquitoes ate us alive, we left as soon as we were done eating. And my wife is a musician who played during the wedding. She had refused payment because she was a friend of the bride. At the end of the wedding, we had to pack up her sound equipment, which is why we were among the last to arrive at the reception. Work Christmas party. Fed some banquet spiced chicken. If you've ever been to any catered conference ever, you know what I'm talking about, which wasn't cooked all the way through and nearly immediately made me ill. Which would have been fine if we weren't caught out watching a corporate video for 45 minutes. I was at the front, and there was a weird "you probably shouldn't leave right now" energy that I abided. My stomach sounded like Bobby McFerrin singing underwater. One of my then boyfriend's friends had a party. Everyone starts drinking. Then they all start making out. He neglected to tell me it was some orgy thing. I called a cab. Mandatory work Christmas party at a restaurant. We had to buy our own food. And then the very next day they let a bunch of people go. Went to a new co-worker's house party where she ordered food and drinks only for herself and her friends, telling everyone else there was nothing in the house to eat. We later found out that the cupboards had been filled with snacks that very evening, but the host didn't think the guests should be allowed to have any. Not just that, she took another co-worker home early from work to buy these snacks from the grocery store, even asking her to contribute to the cost. But once the party started there was no mention of any of that food. Most people at the party didn't know each other really well, yet we were made to play some random card game where you get points based on knowing each other's deepest fears and ambitions. It got awkward fast. A few hours into this, a giant pizza arrived, and one co-worker picked up a slice. She was told that's for us, host and her friends, leaving the rest of the party to order food for themselves. I should add here that she spent the whole week urging people to attend this party, giving up their Friday night to be at her place. Ducking horrible, to say the least. The host even suggested that if guests wanted to drink her alcohol they could contribute per drink consumed from her bottles, even though no one was told we had to bring our own alcohol. Where I'm from, you either let your guests know they BYOB or it's understood that they are allowed to drink and eat from bottles and plates of food you've placed in front of them. For duck's sake.